Welcome to Fallout New Vegas, the Cutting Room 4, and part 2 of our investigation into the Legion's cut content. In the final game, the Legion only control a small handful of locations, but there were 3 additional Legion settlements planned to appear on the east side of the Colorado River. Lead designer and project director of New Vegas, J.E. Sawyer, revealed how they would have differed from the Legion areas that weren't cut. The additional Legion locations would have had more traveling non-Legion residents of Legion territories. The fort and Cottonwood Cove made sense as heavy military outposts, where the vast majority of the population consisted of soldiers and slaves. The other locations would have had more civilians. It's not accurate to think of them as citizens of the Legion is purely military, but as non-tribal people who live in areas under Legion control. While Caesar intentionally enslaves NCR and Mojave residents in the war zone, most of the enslavement that happens in the east happens to tribals. As Raul indicates, there are non-tribal communities that came under Legion control a long time ago. The additional locations would have shown what life is like for those people. The general tone is what you would have expected from a life under a stable military dictatorship, facing no internal resistance. The majority of people enjoy safe and productive lives, more than they had prior to the Legion's arrival. Water and power flow consistently, food is adequate, travel is safe, and occasionally someone steps afoul of a legionary and gets his or her head cut off. If the Legion tells someone to do something, they only ask once, even if it means an entire community has to pick up and move 50 miles away. Corruption within the Legion is rare, and Caesar deals with it harshly even by Legion standards. In short, residents of Legion territories aren't really citizens and they aren't really slaves, but they're also not free. People who keep their mouths shut, go about their business, and nod at the rare requests that the Legion makes of them, they can live very well. Many of them don't care at all that they don't have a say in what happens around them, mostly because they felt they never had a say in it before the Legion came anyway.
What do you want from me, woman? I'm in charge of the arena, not the cooking pots.
While every member of the Legion other than Caesar is a slave, women are depicted as a noticeably lower caste and are treated with ample misogyny. However, the strategy guide reveals that women do hold important positions within the Legion. According to page 41 of the official strategy guide, true, Caesar is the perfect man, but he is not just a man. He is the son of Mars, ordained by the god of war to conquer all Earth. To prepare the way, Mars raised the earth, cleansed it with fire, and brought the weak and the wicked low. And now his son has come to deliver the wasteland from chaos and barbarism. To follow Caesar is to obey the will of Mars. To disobey is to condemn oneself to death. As the son of Mars, Caesar has the divine right to demand servitude from all he encounters. Not everyone believes that Caesar is the product of a god's loins, of course. The most recently captured slaves tend to be pretty skeptical, but they aren't very vocal in their criticisms, and their children are raised not by skeptical parents, but by priestesses appointed to that task by virtue of their knowledge of an adherence to the state religion. Of particular note are the priestesses who raise children taken from their parents and raise them in keeping with Caesar's doctrine. The role of these Legion priestesses is particularly interesting, and they appear to be at least partially inspired by the Vestal Virgins of the Roman Empire. All men capable of fighting within the Legion ranks are slave soldiers, and these Legion priestesses would have held the important role of indoctrinating them as children. They also would have served a religious purpose. The previous paragraph also implies that Caesar is a deified ruler within the Legion. There are few references in-game to this, but Legate Lanius' dialogue implies that he genuinely believes in Mars, and even makes sacrifices for his favor. It's unknown if additional elements of the state religion were actually planned content, or simply background lore, but their inclusion would have been very interesting. The Collector's Edition deck of cards reveals that there was an additional division of the Legion, similar to the Frumentari. In ancient Rome, Speculatores and Exploratores served as scouts, providing reconnaissance for the legions and praetorians. They often wore disguises, acting as spies in order to gain information. While Speculatores began initially as scouts, but over time they would often become bodyguards, executioners, law enforcers, and perhaps most interestingly, couriers. In New Vegas, frumentari essentially bought and provided rations for Roman legions. Later in Rome's history, they became spies and informants, and actually replaced some of the roles previously filled by the Speculatores. Because of these similarities, it's difficult to speculate how these groups would have been distinguished from one another.
Yes. We are forbidden from speaking his true name. He was a shaman of...
The only remaining line of dialogue that refers to them is from Melissa, a member of the Great Khans. I think it's safe to say that the Legion scouts and explorers would have been a part of this group, but otherwise it's difficult to distinguish how they would have differed from the frumentari. It's possible that this similarity is why they were cut, and likely that some of their content was recycled into the Legion frumentari. One of these Legion locations was called Camp Willow, and it would have appeared southeast of the fort. This early map of New Vegas was displayed at Res 2013, and it's clearly an artifact from early development. Several locations from the final release hadn't been added in yet, while most interestingly, it depicts many locations that were never implemented. Camp Willow is based off of the real-world location Willow Beach, and in New Vegas, it was originally an NCR military camp before being destroyed by Caesar's Legion sometime after the First Battle of Hoover Dam. This location is never mentioned in dialogue or notes, and there are no references to it in the game files. However, it's specifically mentioned in the strategy guide, and at one point, it was clearly planned to be an important location. The NCR has been holding the dam continuously since, and have fortified positions along the dam and up and down the west side of the Colorado River. Recently, the Legion has pushed the NCR off the east side of the river at the Battle of Willow Beach, which destroyed an NCR military camp, and the Battle of Arizona Spillway. The next cut settlement would have been Malpais Legionary Camp, and it would have been placed due east from Camp Forlorn Hope. There are only 2 remaining references to this location in the game files. Specifically, Benny has an unused AI package, V-Tops Benny Temp Legion Sandbox, that would have transported him from the Tops to Malpais Legionary Camp after escaping from the player. This is reinforced by the unused marker V-Tops Temp Benny Legion marker, which is contained in the otherwise empty Malpais Legion Camp cell. Joshua Graham is known as the Malpais Legate, so he undoubtedly would have been connected to this location in some way, but we're left with only speculation as to how. Perhaps the Malpais Legate Camp would have been the staging ground where Joshua Graham led the Legion to defeat at the First Battle of Hoover Dam. Alternatively, it could have been the location where Joshua Graham was punished for the Legion's defeat by being covered in pitch, lit aflame, and tossed into the Grand Canyon, transforming him into the Burned Man. Regardless, this location likely would have added to the myth of Joshua Graham, and provided additional information about his character prior to the Honest Hearts DLC. It also seems likely that this is where Captain Sterling, the NCR soldier, was tortured. As far as I know, he's the only character with dialogue that references this location.
Well, that wasn't really a matter of choice. Got myself caught by legionaries up in Malpais.
It appears that Elephant Hill likely would have been the 3rd Legion settlement, but short of its appearance on the resed map, nothing else is known about it. There are 2 additional cut Legion locations as well, the Arizona Spillway and Cottonwood Cove Bunker. Like Camp Willow, the Arizona Spillway was an important location in the events that led up to the stalemate between the NCR and Legion at the start of New Vegas. Sometime after the First Battle of Hoover Dam, the Battle of Arizona Spillway took place, and the NCR were driven back across the Colorado River. An unused map, Hoover Dam interior Arizona Spillway, still remains, but is unfortunately empty. However, since the Arizona Spillway is a real-world part of Hoover Dam, we have a good idea of how it would have appeared in-game. There's no way to reach it without clipping through the environment, but the entrance to the area still remains. Interestingly, there's a ladder to even get down to this area that essentially acts as a doorway. It's the only ladder that I'm aware of in the entire game that's like this. It seems likely that the player would have entered this area during the Second Battle of Hoover Dam and fought off legionaries who were advancing from within the tunnel. Finally, Cass has some cut dialogue that would have played here. The final known cut Legion location was called Cottonwood Cove Cave Bunker. There's an unused script called NVCC Bunker Logbook script, and most interestingly, NVCC Bunker Radroach, which refers to the irradiated Radroach. This unused enemy functions exactly like a glowing one, and could have possibly appeared after the player pushed the radioactive barrels into Cottonwood Cove. But the appearance of a cut bunker in a Legion settlement leads me to believe that this is where the weather monitoring station, where Mr. House's secret bunker is located, was originally planned to appear. This cut song would have played in Legion-controlled settlements at night. Combined with the information we just discussed, I think this song paints a vivid picture of how these settlements might have appeared had Obsidian had more development time. While the vast majority of the Mojave Wasteland is overrun by murderous raiders and irradiated monsters, the Legion areas on the east side of the Colorado River likely would have been some of the safest in the game. With adequate food, power, water, and protection, you likely would have found wealthy merchant caravans here, perhaps with some of the best inventories in the game, and non-military citizens of the Legion would have provided first-hand experience of the benefit of Legion control. While the NCR, Mr. House, and the independent ending are presented in a morally ambiguous way, the Legion was depicted as black and white in an otherwise gray world. The additions of this cut content would have made the player question whether freedom was worth sacrificing for security and stability, which is in and of itself a very interesting moral quandary. And that's all for this episode. I had originally planned on wrapping up the Legion's cut content here, but this video is already nearing 15 minutes, so that'll be our next episode. Feel free to comment as well, as I love the discussion that it creates. Also, if I've left anything out, let me know, and I'll give you a credit in an upcoming video. Thanks for watching, and be sure to like and subscribe for more content like this.